Hi, I'm Nikki from Find Me Crafting. I've got a fantastic gift idea for you, and it's based on the assumption that everyone needs an apron. Everyone, whether you are cooking or grilling or crafting, just think about all the Mod Podge and glue and paint that you want to protect your clothes from. Everybody needs an apron at some point, and I've got the absolute best apron for you. This is the best. It's made from a pair of jeans. It is super heavy duty. It's going to hold up to paint, to food splatters, all of it. I love these aprons, and they're completely customizable. Look, you can make them for Christmas gifts. Look at the super cute customization options. You can make these for Thanksgiving hostess gifts. You can just give them anytime for any reason because they are going to absolutely love them. Look at how cute this one is. And one of my favorite parts is that this neckline is adjustable. So look at how easy it is. You can just move it like this, and look, I've made the neckline bigger. So it's going to fit everybody perfectly. It is a really fantastic gift. You're going to want to give them to everybody. Come on, I'll show you how. And if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss any new patterns or projects. Here's what you're going to need for supplies. You need one pair of jeans, and from that one pair of jeans, you can make 2 aprons because you're going to cut a pant leg for each apron. So you need the one leg and one pocket from a pair of jeans, any pair of jeans that you want. And you're going to want to go to a Girl and a Glue Gun. I'll put the link in the description box down below for the tutorial for how to cut this denim piece out, how to cut the arm pieces, how to get the pocket off, all that good stuff, so that what you have is the piece here ready to add on binding and to sew the other pieces on. You're also going to need about a yard of 100% cotton fabric in whatever pattern you want. I'm using this, I can't tell if it's whipped cream or if it's frosting, but it looks delicious, whatever it is. But you need a yard of whatever fabric you're going to use for the binding and the neck strap and the waist straps. You're also going to want a 1-inch wide rectangle ring and a 1-inch wide slide adjuster. Sometimes the slide adjuster, this piece here in the middle, will not move. That'll work exactly the same way, but they both need to be 1 inch. You're going to need sewing clips and or sewing pins, whichever you prefer to use. You need fabric scissors. You need a cutting mat. Hopefully yours doesn't look as abused as mine. And you're also going to need a rotary cutter. Along with the cutting mat and rotary cutter, you're going to want the big giant ruler thing. I love this handle. It makes me feel a lot less like I'm going to cut my hand when I use my rotary blade, but that is not a requirement. You really just need the cutting ruler itself. You need a sewing machine, an iron, and an ironing board. You also need some coordinating thread, just all-purpose 100% polyester thread. This handy dandy tool is not necessary for the project, but I have found it quite useful. Mine has a seam ripper on one end, and the other end, that's the seam ripper, the other end is called a stiletto. It's just this sharp pointy piece. You put it in here in the end, and you can use it to guide your fabric into your sewing machine. I discovered this tool about a year ago, and it is fantastic. I'll put a link in the description box down below if you want to give that a try, but like I said, it's not necessary for the project. If you're going to add any of the iron-on vinyl onto the apron itself, you will need a cutting mat. You will need some iron-on vinyl in whatever colors you want to use. My favorite brand is this Caesar Easy Weed HTV. You'll also need a weeding tool and some parchment paper. I reuse mine so it gets to looking pretty abused before I throw it away. To iron on the fabric, you can use a regular iron. I'm going to be using the Cricut mini press. I love this thing. If you don't have one and do any heat transfer, I love this thing. It's awesome. I'll put the link in the description box for this as well. You will also need a Cricut or a Silhouette to cut the heat transfer vinyl. Once you get the denim cut out and you have the base for the apron cut out and sized, the next step is to cut your cotton fabric. I have folded mine And this is the long way here that I have folded up so that I can cut 4-inch strips. And I'm going to cut my entire piece of fabric. This is not all of it. I have another separate piece, but I'm going to cut all of my fabric 4 inches wide. So they're going to be very long strips that are all 4 inches wide. So once you have all of your strips cut, you're going to take one and then place another one right sides together, right on top, line up these two edges, not two edges, line up the edge. And then you're just going to sew this with a 1/4 inch seam allowance right here to connect the two strips. And then you're going to do that for all of your strips. So then you would have one ginormous strip that is 4 inches wide. Bring your absolutely humongous strip over to your ironing board. You want to flip it over and find all of the seams you just made by sewing 2 of the strips together. And you're going to open it up and iron it flat so that these seams are nice and flat when you sew on your binding. And do that for all of your seams. Now take your strip with the right side, the pretty side down, and we're just going to fold it in half so that the edges line up, and you're going to iron this section so that you create a line in the middle of the fabric. And do that all the way down the strip. Now you're going to open that up, and you can see this crease right down the middle that you've made by ironing it. We are going to take this bottom side, the side closest to us, and fold it up till it's just about touching that line that you created, and we're going to iron this all the way down the entire strip. Once you have that done, you're going to flip it around and do the same thing on the other side so that you're going to have them almost meet. There's a tiny little gap there in the middle, but they're almost meeting in the middle, and you're going to iron it all again and do this side. There's just one more step to making your binding, and that is to fold this in half. So this is what you're left with after the ironing you've done. If you open it up, this is what it looks like. So we close it. You're just going to fold it in half and iron it one more time so that it stays just like this. And then what you have is a piece of binding you can slide your fabric into, and there are no raw edges because the edges are going to be on the inside. Phew, that was a lot of ironing, but now you have the binding almost entirely ready to go for the rest of the project. So this is the front. I like to start my binding just over on one side. It's a little easier to hide. It's not up near the top where people are going to be looking more often. So all you need to do is open up your binding, and you're going to sandwich it right here around your denim so that the denim itself goes all the way inside your binding, and then you just clip it in place. You could use pins for this. I would bleed all over because I always stick myself with pins. I really love clips. They were the greatest invention for sewing, as far as I'm concerned, of all time. Okay, maybe not the sewing machine, but other than that, everything else. When you come to a corner, I want to show you how I do corners, and I have no idea what this technique is called. I'm sure I learned it somewhere, but I have no idea where. I've been doing it a long time. So you can see the corner of your denim right here. So this opens up. I'm going to put my fingernail right here where I can feel the corner of that denim. I'm going to kind of place my fingernail there. I'm going to use my other thumb to open up this binding. And I'm going to kind of squish the binding down right here next to my nail, and then hold it here, and then on the back do the same, just kind of fold it down like that. And you can see it creates this corner. I like to clip it, and then to make sure it's straight, you just have to continue down the next side a little ways. So as I place this next portion in there, sometimes you'll have to move this around a little bit, maybe just readjust to make sure that it's all straight. But that's my corner, and I'm just going to continue placing my denim inside the binding and clipping as I go. I've come to another corner, so I thought I'd show you again how I do this. There's the pointed corner piece, so I'm just going to put my nail right there where it's at. I'm going to open up my binding here like this so that one side is going on the back and the front side is going on the front. And I'm just going to get it to fold down right there along my nail, and I'm just going to pinch it. So once again, you kind of have to keep going with your new side here and make sure that it's all smoothed out with your corner. Sometimes I readjust. When you come to the part that will be the waist, so if you're looking, this is the part up near your neck. This is going to be where the waist straps go. It's just another corner. You just treat it like any of the others. So I've got it around my denim. I'm going to put my nail right there where the corner is on my denim. I'm going to open this one up and push it back so it makes that crease right there at the corner. Make sure it's doing the same on the back side. You want them to line up so that when you sew them, you're going to catch both sides. I'm going to clip that, and then we're just going to continue around, trying to get it as even as you can around the curved area. And you just keep placing it on your denim like you have been. And if you end up with a bit of a gap between, like I can feel that my denim stops right about here inside, that's okay, that's great. It's going to help you put it around the curve, and it's going to end up just great. That's not a problem at all. When you get back around to where you started, I don't finish it off or do anything at this point. I'm just going to make sure I have enough. I'm going to clip it, and I'm going to give myself about, what, 1.5 inches right here extra. And then I'm going to just take my fabric scissors and cut it there. I'm going to take more of the binding that I made, and I'm just going to measure 2 pieces that are 34 inches long each. Just use your fabric scissors to cut them. So what I want to do is close this whole thing up. I'm going to run a 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch, actually a 1/8 inch seam right here down the side. But first I want to take one of the ends on each of my straps, and I want to fold it down like 1/4 inch just to finish off this edge. After you folded it down, you fold it back over. I'm going to close this top portion and then all the way down the side for each of these straps with a 1/8 inch seam so that it's not going to open up or anything. It's going to be a strap. The waist straps are going to go right here where it curves inward. I'm going to put them just below the point there after it curves inward. So it curves here, it comes to a point, and I'm going to put my strap right here in this section. I'm going to take the end that is not finished, the one that I left alone and didn't fix. I didn't finish off this end, and I'm going to tuck it in right here into my binding so it's all the way up here near my crease, and I'm going to fold it back on itself just like this and try to make it straight coming out from the apron itself, and just clip that in place, and you have your straps ready to be sewn on as well. From the remainder of our binding strip, we're going to cut another piece that is 28 inches long and another piece that is just 4 inches long. For both the 28-inch long piece and the 4-inch piece, I am going to not necessarily worry about having to close this up at all, that's fine, but I am going to close this side, and then I'm going to run a top stitch 1/8 inch on the other side, just so it looks pretty, because this is the neck piece. You are going to have it in the front, up and visible near your face. So I'm going to take my rectangle ring and my 4-inch piece, and I'm just going to thread one end through the rectangle ring and match up the ends over here like this. And now this is the top of the apron, the part that's up near the neck. And I'm going to be putting this piece over here just like this. So I'm going to measure in, or really just eyeball it, about 1 inch in right here at the edge of where my binding is. I want it to start right there. I'm going to line up the bottom edge of this piece, and I'm just going to clip that in place at this point. That's where that's going to go there. Now the 28-inch piece, is going to go an inch in from the side on the left side of the apron. The left to us, if you're wearing it, this is the right side, but this is the left as I'm looking at it. And really you could put that either way. That's just how I find it easy. That's what makes sense in my brain. So I'm going to place this right here about an inch in from the side and line it up with the bottom edge of my binding. And I'm just going to clip it in place. You're going to make sure that this isn't twisted. You want it to go in here correctly. And now you need your slide adjuster. I'm going to take my strap. I'm going to come from the bottom on the left. I'm going to thread it over top of the bar, which is moving around, and down on the right. So this is what this looks like so far, just like this. I'm going to just move this over. I'm going to take that end, the same end I've just been working with. I'm going to come back over to here where I put this rectangle ring. I'm going to go from the front to the back so that both pieces are technically through the rectangle ring. And then I've got my end here. I'm going to thread it back toward my slide adjuster. And I'm going to go back through the same slide adjuster with this part of the strap still in it, the same way I did before. So I've got this end. I want to come up underneath the strap that's already in it, but I'm going to come up through the left, over the bar, and then down through the right, just like we did before. So you can move the strap you have in there out of the way, and you take your strap, you go up here on the left, the bar is in the middle, can't see it, the bar is right there in the middle, and I'm going to put the end here back down the right side behind the strap that I already had in there. And it looks like that. I know it's crazy, like all kinds of stuff going on, but look at, when you look at it like this, it's looking like it should. The magic is happening. Just trust the process. There's just one more little section you have to work on. I'm going to adjust this so there's some room. And we just want to fold over our end, our raw end, a little bit so that we can finish it off. I'm going to give myself just enough room so that I can get my sewing machine in here. And I'm going to sew this to the one behind it. So you have this part not sewn. I'm going to sew this right over here to this back piece that's threading through there. So I'm going to clip it in place right now on both sides. And this is what you have so far. So you have one side of the strap over here, 1 inch in on the back here. It comes over and around here. We went up through the bottom on the left, over the bar, down on the right, front to back over here on the rectangle ring. Then it comes this way, and we went up through the bottom on the left, over the bar, down through the bottom on the right, again, just underneath the part of the strap we'd already put through. Fold over the end and clip it to the part that is in the back here of your adjustable section. So hopefully walking it through like that makes sense. The only other part you need to get ready before you start sewing is the pocket. This is all I have remaining of my binding. I have a little bit extra, but not a lot, not a ton. So if you want to add the fabric to the top, you're just going to sandwich it in like this. I'm going to finish off the edge, so fold it over just like I did for the waist straps, and I'm going to sandwich it on top of my pocket and clip that, and then just come over to the other end and do the same where you're folding in. I'm going to leave myself a little bit of room to tuck it and maybe cut it straight. That would be helpful. And then you can just fold it over just like you did at the other end. Make sure it's even with the edge of your pocket and clip it in place. You don't have to add fabric on top. If you just want the pocket by itself, you can do that, or you don't have to put on a pocket at all. I just think it's fun, but it's obviously not a requirement. It is a great place to put your phone though while you're working. So once you have your pocket fabric on, looking the way you like. You just need to stitch right here at the bottom, just across the top of the pocket itself. I'm going to position the pocket. I don't have a specific placement. It just kind of here-ish, you know, a couple inches up from the bottom. Depends on, you know, what size denim you're working with. I don't have a specific measurement. I will say though, you want to make sure that your edge is straight and you're using the top edge. You want this to be as straight as that top edge. Don't aim to have it like centered up or anything with these curves. My brain wants to do that. It won't look good. Trust me. So you're just going to want to have it be this edge straight with the top edge of the apron and pin it in place. And now you're ready to go to the sewing machine and sew all of it. I'm going to start over here where I began my binding. I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around the apron. And when you come to these corners, this is where the stiletto is nice, because you want to hold this corner down as you're sewing so that it doesn't get trapped under your foot. And you can kind of get in here with this pokey little piece. See, even with that, it's hard sometimes. That pokey little piece to make sure it stays. When you get to this section where your strap is hanging off, you're just going to continue on like you did before. I'm going to come back in a little while and stitch right here, but for right now, just go right along, you know, give yourself the 1/4 inch seam allowance, just like you did before. So I should be using my stiletto. And then you just turn it, and then just continue to sew, gently curving it here with the curve in the apron. When you get back around to where you started the whole sewing process, I stop a little ways ahead just so I can finish up this part. And what I'm going to do is trim this. I know I have plenty now, so I'm going to trim this down a little. And I'm going to fold the ends in just like I did for the straps. Sometimes actually, if you want a little bit easier of a time making these little end pieces go in, I'm going to clip off just a tiny corner right there like that. And now these end pieces aren't going to be sticking out. So I'm going to fold it over, and then I'm going to fold it in half. And sometimes you have to play with it to make sure that the ends are all tucked in. But the goal is to overlap the end that you started with and make sure that it's lining up so that this part is lined up with the bottom part. And for me, at least, that always takes a little bit of finagling, a little bit of adjusting and shifting so that I can have my seam look as good as it's going to look. Let's just say that. And then you're going to want to clip it. And I'm going to finish sewing where I stopped. I stopped up here. I'm going to finish sewing here, and I am going to go across this section here too, just so that nothing is going to accidentally snag underneath there. We do need to sew down the piece inside of the adjustable neck strap. So I've got it all clipped here. I'm going to remove those, and I'm just going to sew this piece right here where I had it clipped. I do go back and forth a few times just to make it extra secure. Okay, I am going to go back where I have all the straps, so the waist straps and the neck straps, and I am going to sew just a line right here at the edge of my binding so that it tacks this onto the very front of my apron, and also gives it a little more stability because these are the pieces that are going to be moving around and getting tugged on and everything, so I want to make sure they're secure. Same thing here for the neck strap. Once the body of the apron is finished, you can choose to add some personalization with heat transfer vinyl. I use a Cricut, so I designed mine in Cricut Design Space. You can obviously create your own design or buy one from somewhere like Etsy. I have step-by-step detailed instructions for this process on my website, and the link will be in the description box down below. If you've worked with heat transfer vinyl before, just a quick reminder to select the mirror button before you cut everything out. All that's left to do is iron on your design onto the front of the apron using a regular iron or a Cricut mini press or easy press. Now it's ready to give away or wear yourself because you need to test everything out, right? Happy crafting!